1. Let me tell you about this sweet 62 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist today. This classic pickup is catching eyes at $21,900, and honestly, there's a lot to love here. First off, that bright red paint job really makes this truck pop. It's presenting beautifully. Now here's something interesting. While it originally came with the straight 6, it's getting an upgrade with a 350 V8 that's running strong. That's actually a pretty popular swap that gives these trucks some extra muscle while keeping things period correct. What makes this C10 special is that it's rocking some rare features. You don't see that big back glass option too often, and those custom edition moldings and trim pieces really set it apart. They've kept it classic with the steel wheels, dog dish hubcaps, and fresh white wall tires, which is exactly how these trucks should look. The seller's claiming excellent condition, and from the description, it sounds like they've got a solid, clean titled truck here. With the manual transmission, you're getting that authentic vintage truck experience. For $21,900, you're looking at a well-preserved piece of Americana that's been thoughtfully upgraded while keeping its classic charm. These early 60s C10s have been climbing in value, and with those rare options, this one's definitely worth checking out if you're in the market for a classic pickup. 2. Let's talk about this interesting 1975 Dodge W100, Ram 1500. I just spotted for $7,150. This is actually a pretty intriguing find, especially for classic truck enthusiasts. What we've got here is a short bed 4x4 model. And let me tell you, that short bed configuration is genuinely rare for these mid-70s Dodges. The truck's sporting a 318 V8, which is a solid, reliable engine choice that Dodge was known for, and both the engine and transmission have been freshly rebuilt. That's a huge plus for any potential buyer. At 93,000 original miles, that's relatively low for a truck of this age, and the seller's calling it excellent condition with a clean title. The gray paint gives it that classic no-nonsense work truck vibe. The automatic transmission paired with 4x4 makes this a practical classic that you could actually use. For $7,150, considering today's inflated classic truck market, this seems like a fair ask, especially with the rebuilt drivetrain and the rare short bed configuration. These old Dodge trucks are getting harder to find, particularly in 4x4 form, and they're starting to gain more attention from collectors. Just remember to check the usual rust-prone areas typical of 70s trucks and verify the quality of those rebuilds. But overall, this looks like an interesting piece of American truck history that could be both a good investment and a usable classic. 3. Let me tell you about this interesting 1979 Ford F-150 XLT Lariat I just found listed for $5,500. This one's got some cool features that make it stand out. First off, this is a long bed model packing the massive 460 cubic inch V8. That's the big boy of Ford engines from this era. The sellers added some nice performance touches with headers and dual exhaust, plus a 4-core radiator to keep that big engine running cool. For anyone who knows these trucks, that 460 is a torque monster, even if it's thirsty at the pump. What's really neat is that it comes with its period-correct Pilgrim canopy. Finding original matching canopies from this era is getting harder and harder. The truck spent most of its life in Yakima, Washington, which usually means less rust concerns than East Coast trucks. With 103,350 miles showing, that's pretty reasonable for a truck of this age. The brown paint is very period correct, very 70s. And the XLT Lariat trim was the fancy package back then. The onboard air compressor is a practical addition that adds real utility. It's listed in good condition with a clean title. And honestly, at $5,500, you're getting a lot of classic truck for the money. For anyone looking for a classic F-150 with some muscle under the hood, this could be a solid buy. Just make sure to check those usual Ford frame and cab mount rust spots. But being a Washington truck, it might be cleaner than most. These old Ford trucks are getting harder to find, especially with the big 460 and in good condition. So this price point seems pretty fair for what you're getting. 4. Let's talk about this 1964 Chevy C10 I just spotted for $8,000. I've got to be straight with you. This one's a bit of a mixed bag, but there might be potential here for the right person. The seller's honest about listing it in fair condition, and there's a notable issue right up front. rust in the cab roof. That's actually a pretty serious concern because roof rust on these C10s can be tricky and expensive to repair properly. With 78,000 miles showing, the green paint, and a V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a desirable combo, there's definitely some appeal here. The good news is that it runs good, according to the seller, and these 64 C10s are becoming increasingly popular in the classic truck market. The 4-speed manual transmission is particularly desirable among enthusiasts, as it gives you that authentic vintage truck experience. At $8,000 though, you really need to factor in the cost of addressing that roof rust and any other potential issues that might be lurking. These trucks are generally pretty straightforward to work on, but rust repair isn't cheap if you want it done right. For someone who's handy with metalwork or has a good relationship with a body shop, this could be a decent project truck. Just be sure to thoroughly inspect the rest of the body, frame, and mechanicals before making a decision. Early 60s, C10s are climbing in value, but this one's condition makes it more of a project than a turnkey classic. 5. Let's check out this 1984 Ford F250 that's up for grabs at $5,000. This is one of those old-school workhorses that's got some interesting features worth talking about. What we're looking at here is a 4X4 F250 powered by the 6.9L IDI diesel. That's the non-turbo international diesel engine that Ford used before the Power Stroke era. While it's not a powerhouse by today's standards, these engines are known for their simplicity and reliability. With 167,550 miles, that's actually pretty modest mileage for these old diesel trucks, as they were built to go the distance. The yellow paint makes it stand out, and it's got some features that diesel fans will appreciate. It's straight piped, so you know it's going to have that classic diesel sound, and comes with dual fuel tanks, which was a super practical feature for these work trucks. The 4-speed manual transmission is a robust choice that matches well with the diesel engine's characteristics. At $5,000, you're getting a pretty honest old truck. These IDI diesels are becoming more sought after because of their mechanical simplicity. No complex electronics to worry about, and they're relatively easy to work on. The 4X4 system from this era is also pretty bulletproof when maintained. Just keep in mind that being a 1984 model, you'll want to check for the usual Ford rust issues and make sure the diesel injection pump is in good shape, as those can be pricey to replace. But if you're looking for a classic diesel work truck that's more about function than flash, this could be a solid choice at this price point. 6. Let's talk about this interesting 1968 Chevy C10 that's listed for $22,500. This one's got some unique features that make it stand out from your typical C10s. What we've got here is a long bed model packing a 396 big block V8 paired with a turbo 350 automatic transmission. And here's what's really interesting. The seller mentions it appears to be a factory setup, even having the original California emissions equipment preserved. That's pretty rare and could be valuable to the right collector, as most of these trucks have had their emissions equipment stripped off years ago. Now, let's be real about the 200,000 miles showing on the odometer. That's some serious mileage. However, these trucks were built to last, and if it's been restored as the seller indicates, the mileage becomes less of an issue. The seller mentions it was restored for family use, which often means it was done with care, rather than just for a quick flip. At $22,500, you're in the higher range for C10s. But if this is truly a factory 396 truck with original emissions equipment, that could justify the price for the right buyer. The long bed configuration, while not as popular as short beds with collectors, actually offers more utility if you plan to use the truck. Before making a move at this price point, you definitely want to verify the originality of that 396/TH350 combo and check the quality of the restoration work. These 6772 C10s are hot in the classic truck market right now, but you still want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. 7. Let's check out this 1976 Dodge W100 Power Wagon Adventurer that's up for grabs at $8,000. This is one of those cool pieces of Mopar truck history that's getting harder to find. First off, let's talk about what makes this one special. It's a one-family-owned truck, which usually means better care and maintenance history. It's rocking the reliable 318 V8, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a robust combination that these trucks were known for. The seller's honest about the odometer having rolled over, so we're looking at more than 150,288 miles here. What's really encouraging is the recent mechanical attention this truck has received. We're talking new BrakeMaster cylinder, fresh rear drum brakes, new front disc pads, and a new battery. That's some serious safety-focused maintenance right there. The fact that it's being used as a daily driver suggests it's mechanically sound and not just a pretty paperweight. The Blue Power Wagon is wearing its Survivor status proudly, and being an adventurer model means it came with some nice trim options from the factory. These old Dodge trucks are built like tanks, and the 4x4 system is pretty bulletproof when maintained. For $8,000, you're getting a piece of authentic American truck history that's still ready to work. These W100S are starting to gain more attention from collectors, especially original family-owned examples. Just make sure to check the usual rust spots these old Dodges are known for, but if everything checks out, this could be a solid investment in a classic that you can actually use and enjoy. 8. Let me tell you about this absolutely incredible 1978 Ford F-250 that's listed for $28,500. This isn't your average 70s Ford. We're talking about a legitimate X26 code truck, which is a rare beast in the Ford truck world. What makes this truck special is its authenticity. The seller's got matching numbers on the frame, VIN tag, and title, which is crucial for these sought-after models. The truck's running a monster 460 V8, a 1971 AA code engine that was rebuilt just 2,000 miles ago, upgraded with a 4-barrel carb and headers. It's paired with the factory 4x4 system and a 4-speed manual transmission with 3.73 gears. That's a dream combo for truck enthusiasts. The upgrades are thoughtful and enhance the truck's capability. New drive shafts, a Skyjacker lift kit, and according to the seller, it handles highway speeds like a champ. The paint, while 20 years old, still presents well in the original vermilion red color. There's only one minor rust spot mentioned in the passenger floor, which is remarkably clean for a truck of this age. At $28,500, we're talking serious collector territory, but the seller's right. Documented X26 trucks in this condition can fetch anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000. The mileage shows 138,000, but with the odometer having rolled over, we're looking at more than that. However, with the rebuilt engine, that's less of a concern. The truck comes with some nice extras like new carpet and a modern receiver hitch with working plugins. The original windshield is still in place, which is becoming rare for these old trucks. 9. Let's talk about this interesting 1973 Chevy C10 that's listed for $10,000. This one's got a unique twist that we need to discuss right up front. It's actually running a 1983 body on a 1973 chassis, which makes for an interesting combination. First off, let's talk about what we're looking at here. You're getting a truck with a fresh paint job and a 307 small block V8 with a recently rebuilt carburetor. The seller mentions it starts right up, which is always good to hear. The broken odometer means we can't be certain about the true mileage, but that's pretty common for these older trucks. What makes this truck interesting is its hybrid nature. The 73 chassis means it's smog exempt, which is a big plus in states with strict emissions laws. But you get the slightly more modern look of the 83 body. The seller's got a binder full of receipts, which is always encouraging as it shows the truck's been maintained and documented. At $10,000, you're in the middle range for these C10s. The price point seems fair, considering the fresh paint and rebuilt carb, but you'll want to thoroughly inspect how well that 83 body was mated to the 73 frame. These kinds of swaps can be tricky, and you'll want to make sure everything lines up properly and all the mounting points are solid. For someone looking for a classic truck with a bit of a twist, this could be an interesting option. Just make sure to check all the body mount points, frame condition, and how well everything's been put together. The documentation of work done will be crucial to review before making a decision. 10. Let's dive into this seriously modified 1976 El Camino that's up for grabs at $22,000. This isn't your average El Camino. We're looking at a well-thought-out build with some serious performance upgrades. Let's break down what makes this one special. Under the hood, there's a 350 small block Chevy pushing around 350 horsepower, built with an Edelbrock intake and Carter 650 AVS 4-barrel carb. The 8-quart oil pan suggests this engine was built for performance, and it's breathing through headers and a custom exhaust. The 700 R4 transmission with a shift kit is a great choice, giving you both performance and highway cruising capability. The suspension setup is impressive. QA1 coilovers all around means this El Camino probably handles better than any stock example ever did. The 4-wheel disc brake upgrade with drilled rotors is a huge safety and performance improvement over the original setup. What's really cool is that it comes with 2 complete sets of wheels and tires. You've got the classic rally wheels for a traditional look, plus a set of modern Riddler wheels with some serious rubber. Those 295S in the rear mean business. The vintage air system is a great addition for comfort, and odometer gauges help you keep an eye on everything. At $22,000, you're getting a lot of carefully chosen upgrades. This isn't just a cosmetic build. Whoever put this together focused on performance and drivability. The red paint looks clean in the photos, and the custom upholstery with matching door panels shows attention to detail. 11. Let me tell you about this stunning 1972 Chevy C20 that's listed for $27,000. This isn't your average 72 work truck. We're talking about a completely restored beauty that's been kept true to its original form. What we've got here is a heavy-duty C20 model, finished in a beautiful green paint that the seller describes as impeccable. Under the hood, you'll find the original 350 V8 that's been rebuilt, paired with a freshly rebuilt automatic transmission. For collectors and purists, this is exactly what you want: a stock restoration that maintains the truck's original character. The 124,000 miles showing on the odometer become less relevant when you consider the comprehensive restoration. One detail that really catches my attention is that everything works, including the original radio, which is often a forgotten detail in restorations. The fact that it comes with the original keys is another nice touch that collectors will appreciate. The dual exhaust system gives it that perfect classic V8 sound, and the seller's including a $700 car cover, which shows they've been serious about preserving this beauty. Being a C20, you're getting the heavier-duty version of Chevy's classic truck, which means beefier components throughout. At $27,000, while it might seem steep to some, you're getting a completely restored classic that's ready to show or drive. Consider that a quality restoration can easily cost more than the asking price, and this starts to look like a pretty fair deal. These early 70s Chevy trucks are seriously appreciating in value, especially stock restored examples. 12. Let's talk about this 1977 Ford F-150 XL Ranger that's up for grabs at $4,500. This is one of those old-school 4x4s that's got some interesting features worth discussing. Under the hood, you've got the 351 MV8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a solid torquey combination that these trucks were known for. With 96,000 miles showing, that's actually pretty reasonable for a truck of this vintage. The 4x4 system from this era is pretty bulletproof when maintained properly. Now, let's be honest about a few things. This truck's got 4.11 gears, which means it's set up more for off-road and low-end grunt than highway cruising. The seller's straight up about 55 to 60 miles per hour being the max comfortable cruising speed. That's something to consider if you're planning on highway use. The truck's been modified with a 2000 Super Duty seat, but you get the original seat too. And all the important stuff works: gauges, heater, radio, and wipers. The only issue mentioned is a disconnected aftermarket oil pressure gauge due to a leaking hose, which is a relatively minor concern. At $4,500, and they're saying OBO, or best offer, you're looking at a pretty fair price for a classic 4x4 F-150, especially one that's running and driving. These late 70s Fords are getting harder to find, particularly in 4x4 configuration with the manual transmission. 13. Let's talk about this 1985 Dodge Ram Charger that's listed for $5,900. I've got to be straight with you. This one's definitely what we'd call a running project. and the seller's pretty honest about that fact. Under the hood, you've got the robust 5.9 LV8. That's the 360 for you Mopar folks. That's reportedly running strong, paired with an automatic transmission and 4x4 system. The sellers added headers, which they say gives it a mean sound. Always fun with these old Mopar V8s. The odometer shows 77,000 miles, which is relatively low for these trucks. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The interior is partially disassembled, with all the parts, door panels, cluster bezel, etc., included but not installed. Being an Arizona truck is a huge plus, as these typically have less rust than examples from other regions. The truck's sitting on some nice rims with good tires, which is always a bonus. The seller's honest about listing it in fair condition, and they're clear that while it runs, it needs work to be fully sorted. It's been stored for a while and hasn't been registered during the current owner's 4-year possession. At $5,900, you're buying potential here. These Ram Chargers are becoming increasingly popular as classic SUVs, and finding one from Arizona with a running 360 isn't something you see every day. However, you'll need to be ready to put in some work, particularly on the interior assembly. 14. Let's talk about this awesome 1978 Chevy K20 Silverado that's up for grabs at $10,500. This isn't your average square body. We're looking at some seriously desirable features here. First off, this is a K20, dually with 4x4, which is a relatively rare configuration. And it's packing the mighty 454 big block V8. That's a ton of pulling power right there. With 88,656 miles showing, that's pretty reasonable for these workhorse trucks, especially considering its age. What makes this truck particularly interesting is its Arizona history. That usually means minimal rust issues compared to trucks from other regions. The two-tone blue and white paint combination with matching blue interior is a classic look for these late 70s Chevys. Being a Silverado trim level means it came with more comfort features than the base models. The added extras are pretty sweet too. You've got running boards for easy access, a winch for when things get serious, and aluminum wheels that add a nice touch. The fact that it's a regular cab long bed dually with 4x4 makes it a really capable work truck that could still serve its original purpose today. At $10,500, considering the current market for square-body Chevys, especially ones with the 454, this seems like a fair ask. These trucks are gaining value, and finding one from Arizona with the big block and 4x4 isn't something you see every day. 15. Let's talk about this 1962 Chevy C10 that's listed for $16,800. This is one of those classic long box pickups that's been given some thoughtful updates while maintaining its vintage charm. What we're looking at here is a fully restored C10 that's been upgraded with a 350 V8 engine, a very popular and reliable swap for these trucks, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a combination that gives you both good power and an engaging driving experience. The odometer shows 86,000 miles, though on these old trucks, that number is less important than the quality of the restoration. What's particularly interesting is that this truck was owned by a mechanic, which often means better maintenance and more knowledgeable care. The white paint gives it a clean, classic look, and being a long box model, it's actually still useful as a pickup if you want to put it to work. At $16,800, you're in the middle range for restored early 60s C10s. These trucks have been steadily appreciating in value, and while the long box isn't as sought after as the short box for collectors, it's actually more practical if you plan to use the truck. For someone looking for a classic truck that's been modernized just enough to be more reliable and drivable while keeping its vintage character, this could be a solid choice. The 354-speed combo is proven, and parts are readily available. Just make sure to inspect the quality of the restoration work, particularly the body and frame. But this looks like a well-done example of these increasingly popular classic Chevys. 16. Let's talk about this 1971 El Camino that's listed for $15,000. I've got to be straight with you. This one's a bit of a mixed bag, and the seller's being pretty honest about its condition. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission, enhanced with long tube headers. The seller mentions it runs, stops, and idles well, even proving it with a significant drive from Newport Beach to Moreno Valley without any overheating issues, which is pretty encouraging. Now let's talk about the reality of this El Camino's condition. The sellers listed it as fair, and they're upfront about its needs. While it was originally a factory AC car, the AC isn't currently working. The odometer shows 60,000 but is rolled over. So we're looking at 160,000 plus miles here. The body needs some work here and there, and could use a fresh paint job, though you could drive it as is. On the positive side, all the trim is present, which can be hard to find and expensive to replace. There are no rips in the interior, it's got good brakes and tires, and the glass is good. The current registration and tags are up to date, and it's got a new battery. At $15,000, you need to carefully consider what you're getting. These 71 El Caminos are desirable classics, but this price point seems a bit ambitious given the condition and needed work. You'd want to thoroughly inspect the body issues mentioned and factor in the cost of repairs and potential paintwork if you're planning to restore it. 17. Let's be completely honest about this 1985 Ford Bronco that's listed for $2,000. This one's definitely what we'd call a project vehicle, and the seller's being pretty straightforward about its issues. Right off the bat, we've got two significant problems to address: transmission shifting issues and body rust. These are both potentially expensive fixes depending on their severity. The transmission problems could range from needing a simple adjustment to requiring a full rebuild or replacement. With 172,000 miles on the clock, this kind of wear isn't surprising for these old Broncos. The blue paint might look nostalgic, but with the mentioned rust, you'll need to carefully inspect just how extensive the corrosion is. These old Broncos are known for rust issues, particularly around the wheel wells, rocker panels, and tailgate. At $2,000 OBO, or best offer, you're definitely buying a project here. While these 80s Broncos are becoming more popular as classics, this one's price reflects its condition. The good news is that parts availability for these trucks is generally pretty good, and they're relatively straightforward to work on if you're mechanically inclined. For someone looking for a budget project Bronco to restore, or maybe for parts to save another one, this could be worth looking at. Just make sure you go in with your eyes open about the work needed. At this price point, you might have some negotiating room, especially given the known issues. Just remember, cheap cars often end up being expensive projects. 18. Let's talk about this interesting 1974 Ford F-350 dump truck that's up for grabs at $3,000. This is one of those old-school workhorses with some real character and utility. What we've got here is a former Forest Service 1-ton dump truck, which typically means it's seen its share of work, but also likely received regular maintenance during its service life. It's powered by either a 360 or 390 FE V8, the seller seems uncertain which, both of which are robust engines known for their durability. The odometer's rolled over past 200,000 miles, but that's not unusual for these work trucks. Some good points to note: it's got new tires all around, which is a significant value on a 1-ton truck, and both the wipers and heater are working, basic but important features. The metal dump bed and stake racks are intact, which adds to its utility value. Being a manual transmission truck, it's typically simpler to maintain than an automatic. The seller's honest about listing it in fair condition, which is probably appropriate for a working dump truck of this age. At $3,000, and they're saying OBO, or best offer, you're getting a lot of capability for the money. This could be perfect for someone needing a basic dump truck for farm work, firewood hauling, or construction projects. 19. We've got a real treat for you. A 1976 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $18,500. This beauty is a true classic, and it's in excellent condition according to the seller. Under the hood, you'll find a freshly rebuilt 400 engine that's ready to roar. The numbers match, so you know it's the real deal. And with the SS package, this El Camino is a true performance machine. Inside, the interior has been completely redone, so it's like sitting in a brand new car. The black paint job is sleek and stylish, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. With only 30,000 miles on the odometer, this El Camino has plenty of life left in it. And with a clean title and automatic transmission, it's ready to hit the road whenever you are. Now, I know what you're thinking. $18,500 is a lot of money for a car that's almost 50 years old. But trust me, this El Camino is worth every penny. It's a piece of American history, and it's been beautifully maintained over the years. Of course, as with any used car, there may be some minor imperfections that aren't mentioned in the ad. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this El Camino looks like it's in fantastic shape. So if you're in the market for a classic car that's sure to impress, this 1976 Chevy El Camino is definitely worth checking out. Don't miss your chance to own a piece of automotive history. 20. We've got a real blast from the past. A 1975 Ford F100 Ranger that's up for sale on Craigslist for just $12,000. This truck is a true family heirloom, previously owned by the seller's wife's grandfather, who worked for a propane company. What makes this F100 really unique is its early propane conversion, which was done when the truck was brand new. In fact, the seller says it only ran on gasoline during its initial drive home from the dealership. Talk about a cool piece of history. Under the hood, you'll find a 360 motor that's ready to rumble. The seller recently started it up after letting it sit for 3 years, and all it needed was a new battery and an oil change. That's a testament to the durability of these old Ford trucks. The body is in solid condition, with just some minor dings, dents, and minimal surface rust. The tires have minimal mileage, but they are about 10 years old, so you might want to consider replacing them if you plan on doing a lot of driving. Inside, the truck has factory AC, but it needs some repair or replacement. The seller also notes that it needs a new windshield, a replacement steering wheel, and some various minor items. But hey, that's all part of the charm of owning a classic truck, right? Now, I know $12,000 might seem like a lot for a truck that's almost 50 years old, but hear me out. This F100 is a rare find, with its original condition and propane conversion. It's a piece of automotive history that you can actually drive and enjoy.